Prime Minister Modi of India is on a state visit to the US, and there is a wide agenda, but topping the list is defense. There have been talks about defense deals between India and the US and a significant shift in the defense relationship. With me is the man of the moment, the CEO of General Atomic, Mr. Vivek Lall. Welcome to FirstPost.
Thank you.
Let me not beat about the bush. Are you selling drones to India? Which ones and how many?
So we have a couple of drones already operating in India, and that's with the Indian Navy. And they are the MQ-9B pre-production aircraft. And they have flown over 12,000 hours at this point in India. And I think, there's a conversation government to government going on, and we are always standing by and ready to support the Indian government.
But the ones you talked about are on lease. They've not been sold to India.
That's correct. Those two are on lease to the Indian government.
Are we expecting a change?
Time will tell.
Okay, tell us about your company. A lot of our audience may or may not have heard of General Atomics, but everyone knows about Predator and Sea Guardian, and it's been making headlines in India, all of this. Do you have a presence in India, and what are your plans vis-a-vis India?
Yeah, so we have several partnerships that we have announced recently, from the startups to the major companies there in India. And we continue to want to increase our footprint over there. Of course, we have various areas within the company that could be relevant for India, other than, of course, the unmanned systems. We have things like EMALS, which is electromagnetic launch and recovery system. We have various commercial offerings, including Gulftronic, which is something put at the oil and gas refineries to clear out the slurry at the back end of refineries, and so forth. And of course, we have a very strong nuclear fusion and fission business in terms of advancing nuclear science. So I think a lot of the areas of our company could be applicable in terms of India's needs.
We know that India is in the process of acquiring drones. And do you know what type?
Latest platform is the MQ-9B. And the MQ-9B is, again, the most versatile, high-altitude, long-endurance aircraft, unmanned aircraft in the world. And it's got all the components that are required to making it a resilient and robust platform to undertake the kind of operational needs that could be required by an Air Force or a Navy or an Army. And so that is our offering.
I believe that this pitch is not new to sell drones to India from the US, and it has been in the works for a while now, but the cost was a major issue. Has that changed?
So again, I would not get into the G2G conversations, but I like to think about it as what is the mission, what is the performance required for that mission, and what is therefore the economics around that mission. An unmanned platform, from an operational cost standpoint, is 1/5 or 1/6 of that of a manned platform. That itself, as you know, the total acquisition cost includes the initial cost, but also the operational cost over the lifetime of the machine. And so compared to a manned platform, the unmanned platform is 1/5 or 1/6 of the cost.
I understand. But what I'm trying to understand is that this is a pitch that was, I'm assuming, made in the past as well, or is this a different pitch? Is the customization different? Is the cost different? What was it that proved to be a roadblock 2 years back, say, and is now not so much of a roadblock?
I don't think there has been a roadblock. I think it's a question of the capability that's needed and when it's needed and for what missions, etc. And I think the robustness of this platform has proven itself. The way the Indian Navy has utilized the platform in the last 2 years, 2 years plus, has really been indicative of the capabilities that the Indian Navy needed. And so, every service has its own requirements from a mission perspective, and also a timing of when they want to acquire the asset.
So you think cost was never a factor?
I'm not aware of cost being a factor on any acquisition around the world. It is, I mean, every country has its budgets and every country has a priority of what assets they need. And as they go down that path and prioritize what assets they need for what missions, I'm sure they look at the economics. And like I said, the economics of an unmanned platform far superior than that of a manned ISR platform.
There are multiple players the world over in the drone manufacturing space, and this sector is expanding. What do you think made India zero in on the Predator or the Sea Guardian or the MQ-9B, as you call it?
So the MQ-9B, again, is a very versatile platform. It is a high-altitude, long-endurance platform, a unique capability that serves the mission requirements of India.
India is also very keen on defense companies, as most companies, to come and make in India. Do you see some sort of a partnership evolve on that front as well? Is General Atomics looking at doing something in India, manufacturing in India?
Yes, we made several announcements already, including with Bharat Forge, with HAL, with two startups, 114AI as well as Third iTech. And we are already looking at the ecosystem. We've talked to dozens of companies as to, where there can be synergies. And so I think the India footprint is going to continue to grow over time.
Are you looking at co-production in India of these drones as well?
Like I said, the footprint is going to grow. And, once there is something concrete to talk about after the government-to-government discussions, I'll be happy to do that.
The shift that we're talking about in the defense relationship has also a lot to do with the technology transfer, the transfer of critical technology, which was denied to India in the past. And now it seems that there is more openness to share the jet engine manufacturing and so on and so forth. Do you see a gradual but clear shift in the way both sides are approaching this relationship?
The relationship indeed is growing to new levels. I do think that when it comes to technology, the level of innovation, especially in the startup community in India, is incredible. And we see a lot of great startups coming up with very innovative products. And therefore, when we talk about technology transfer, it's also about technology absorption, and it's also about a two-way street. And many of the products and services, I think, that is being incubated in India can be exported, globally exported and put on platforms from a global standpoint. And so it's not only a one-way transfer of technology. And when you do transfer a particular technology, that's a one-time effort, so to speak. And as you innovate new platforms and as you go to the next generation, you have to have that ecosystem of R&D, of innovation, so that you can leapfrog newer technologies that are coming up. And therefore, I'd really like to commend both governments for catalyzing this ISet initiative, because they're looking at critical and emerging technologies and how both business communities can work together to develop those innovative ecosystems, to do the requisite R&D, so that when we talk about technology, it's not simply about the transfer of technology, but it's actually creation of technology that, like-minded partners can benefit from.
As a leader in the defense space, how do you see India's rise or push towards being seen increasingly as a defense manufacturer and exporter? Not just, it is, of course, the biggest importer of weapons in the world, but India is also looking at creating or carving a space for itself as a destination that other countries can depend on. How do you see that trajectory?
I think that's a very robust trajectory. I think India is on a very good path, and thanks to the leadership of some of the things that have been put in place, including the startup communities and other aspects of the policy that allow catalyzing industry to go along in that journey towards what you just described. And I do see in the future India producing great platforms and services, not only for India but for the world.
Mr. Lall, I understand that countries work and find convergence when they have to, and leaders play along. But there is a reason why some dispensations are able to do more than others. As someone who's interacted with policymakers and decision makers at the highest level, do you think that the individuals in this mix, from President Biden to Prime Minister Modi, have played a crucial role in bringing the two sides together? Or is this a natural convergence that the two sides would have found irrespective of who's leading?
Leadership starts at the top, and indeed, the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and President Biden, I think, has been unparalleled to get to this point, and I think this will be a historic watershed visit for Prime Minister Modi here, because there are various stakeholder buckets to be able to make progress, and it starts with the top. And so I do think the political leadership and the intent is very important. The second is the bureaucratic leaderships of both countries to mesh and understand the ecosystem and how to take two different systems and work and walk together. The third would be the academic and the scientific communities of both countries, understanding where they are in their evolution and how to work together. And then, of course, the fourth are the industry partners and making sure that they merge together. And so when you put all that together, I think you start to see a flow of thoughts that actually is not just ideas, but converging to execution. And so it's very important, no matter what construct or framework or policy framework you take, is to actually execute and show success. And therefore, I'm very excited about ISet and what that can do.
You've interacted with the Indian Prime Minister in the past. What was your impression of him, and can you tell us a little bit about the conversation, and do you think that has played a role in how the equation has evolved?
Yes, I do. I had a fantastic conversation with him when he was here last time in Washington, D.C., and I think he's a visionary. He understands what steps need to be taken from a policy perspective as well as an execution perspective to get to the next levels that are desired by the industry at large, and to catalyze that. So I was very impressed with his knowledge and his ability to translate some of the thoughts into policy prescription that could result in concrete actions. And you can see in the last few months, there has been so many good and positive initiatives that have caught steam, and there have been real success stories already coming out.
If this deal were to come through, how soon would we see these machines and these drones as part of India's military arsenal?
That's a question for both the governments, so I won't be able to answer that.
But you'll be producing them.
Yeah, so we have a robust production line, and certainly any government, once we get an indication that there is a requirement, we do the best to support, and certainly that will be the case in
How long does it typically take?
So it all depends on the configuration and also on what exactly is being requested, including the training, the support, the maintenance. And the maintenance is a big, significant piece of things. And every country and every service has a unique requirement in that sense, depending on their operational profile. But we certainly do our best to support the requirements.
Do you expect an announcement during this visit?
I'll leave that to the governments to answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have a headline, but I have had a good conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.